It's 7:30 a.m. on a Monday in Fogelsville, Pennsylvania. David Crooker, who is 27 years old, is doing his daily chores before he heads off to work. He's so focused, he doesn't even stop to say good morning to his parents. That's because David has autism, and for him, routine is critical.
What are you doing, Dave?
Trash.
Putting out the trash because it's...
Trash.
Chores come easier for David than conversation, and they are much easier than answering an open-ended question about his future.
If you could do anything, what would you do?
Oh, man. I take out the trash every Monday night.
You really like taking out the trash?
Yeah.
What do you like about taking out the trash?
Collecting all that baskets.
His mother, Barbara Crooker, says that although David is an adult, on many levels he is still a child. She can't envision him ever living on his own.
He's extremely trusting. I would be very concerned that, for example, it's payday and someone says to him, well, Dave, I don't have any money. Would you give me all your money? And he would.
David.
When David was diagnosed as a toddler back in 1986, autism was rare, affecting about 4 children in 10,000. At the time, doctors gave Barbara and Richard a grim vision of their son's future.
They said, essentially, you could take him home and love him, and then at some point you ought to let him go. You know, let him be institutionalized. And we drove home saying, well, that's not going to happen.
So Barbara Crooker left her job as an adjunct college professor to care for her autistic son, trying to ease his tantrums and headbanging, behaviors that are common in children with autism. Although they didn't have much of a roadmap, the family tried any treatment they thought would help, from adaptive gymnastics to animal-assisted therapy to changing his diet.
Okay, you're going to get your vitamins in there, huh?
Now that David is an adult, her husband Richard, who's retired, has taken over as primary caregiver while Barbara works.
So what it's amounted to, though, is that each of us lived half an adult life.
The Crookers are ahead of a wave of hundreds of thousands of families who will soon be struggling to care for adult children with autism. Since David was diagnosed in the 1980s, autism rates have soared. Today, roughly 1 in every 110 children falls somewhere on the autism spectrum, where the disorder can range from mild to severe. As many as 500,000 of these children will reach adulthood over the next 12 years. And the cost of caring for this vulnerable population is expected to surge from an estimated $1.3 billion this year to more than $26 billion by the year 2023.
People who are at home might be wondering, why don't people with autism fall under the systems provided to people with other disabilities?
They do, but the problem is their needs are more intense than people with other disability labels, usually. And also the system that's designed to support adults doesn't have the funds to support people. It's not an entitlement system. There's no guarantee. So it really is a system where we will provide services if we have the money to do it. And in our current economic climate, that's a big if.
But that wasn't our goal. Our goal was community employment, a real job.
For adults with autism, a job in the community is tough to come by. Autism advocates estimate that the unemployment rate for people on the autism spectrum is as high as 80 to 90%.
We need to do a much better job interacting with the business community to get the message across that we have this pool of potentially really competent people who could benefit your business. People with autism are probably some of your best employees.
I made more than 10 trays of boxes of 8 markers.
And they go by certain color or?
Certain color, yeah.
While David is settled at work for now, the looming question in his future is what will happen to him when his 65-year-old mother and 68-year-old father are no longer around to care for him.
I've actually been told by social workers, not my current one, but previous ones, that the plan really is don't die. But that doesn't seem to be a very realistic plan, does it?
Today, David is on Pennsylvania's waiting list to get a spot in a government-funded residence. He's behind more than 4,000 people whose needs are considered more urgent by the state.
Everybody's on a waiting list. The waiting list is so long that you realize that you wouldn't reach it in your natural lifespan.
Nationwide, there are more than 120,000 people with disabilities on waiting lists for residential services.